The following video has been rated by the creator as YTE for YouTube viewers of all ages. For best audio quality, the use of headphones may be recommended. Warning: the following video contains potential spoilers for Steven Universe Steven Bomb 2017. If you have not yet seen Season 4, Episodes 11 through 15 of Steven Universe, and do not wish to have them spoiled for you, please turn off the video now. You have been warned. The Moonshadow Mystery Channel and its affiliates make no claim to ownership or association with the topics or media discussed in this program, unless explicitly stated otherwise. This video was made for the purpose of being a form of entertainment and not for the sake of profiting from the creations, licenses, or properties belonging to other content creators or organizations. The content of this video is used and executed under the guidelines of the Fair Use Act. Hello everybody, hello every gem. This is your host, Moonshadow Mystery the Changeling. And before I get started, spoiler warning ahead. I know I probably have that said in the title cards leading up to the actual video, but to reiterate, spoiler warnings ahead. And also, before we get going any further, I know I've been absent for a while. I know weeks ago, in my last video, I mentioned how I was starting a new job. Well, I've been on that job for about a month and a week now. And I've since went from the day shift, which is a 6 to 4:30 kind of deal, or 7 to 4:30 kind of deal, rather, to a 4:30 to 3 a.m. shtick. 10-hour shifts. So I've not had a whole lot of time to work on videos. I do apologize for that. But I'm trying to make up for it now. Now, if you actually read the title, saw the title cards leading up and all, and didn't just skip straight to the nitty-gritty, then you know this is going to be my lightning round review of the latest Steven Bomb for 2017. The first 5 episodes of Steven Universe for this year. This Steven Bomb is basically the space arc, for lack of a better word. More specifically, the zoo arc. Now, for those who haven't already seen them when they were leaked and are still going to be watching them, they either started airing last week or they're starting tomorrow, which would be Monday, January 30th. The episodes are titled Steven's Dream, Adventures in Light Distortion, Gem Heist, The Zoo, and That Will Be All. That would be at Season 4, Episodes 11 through 15. Now, there's just so much added to the lore, and just many new questions added to the questions that had been answered. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's start with Episode 11, titled Steven's Dream, which is pretty basic. The episode starts off with Steven Universe asleep in his bed, having a very lucid, not really a lucid dream, but a very realistic dream, where he's in this vast field staring at the pink pelican that was pink diamonds 5,000 years ago. But when he wakes up, he's got tears just pouring out of his eyes, which he experiences in the dream as well. He's trying to understand it. Well, it turns out that there's more to it. Connie comes over with Buddy's journal, and Steven proceeds to ask the gems about it, and they refuse to answer. Steven, so tired of all the secrecy, especially from Garnet, who's only trying to protect him, as Garnet does, seeks help from his dad, Greg, And then, of course, he gets Uncle Andy involved, and they fly to Korea. Or rather, the Steven Universe version of Korea, which doesn't really seem to be South Korea or North Korea, it's just one Korea. Maybe one day, if things get better in the world, am I right? Not holding my breath. But they do keep to a lot of the Korean stuff. A whole lot of the culture is very well exemplified in this. And we even get a little fourth wall break chuckle as we appear in what appears to be a Korean animation studio storyboard artist, and the art piece they're working on just happens to look like Greg. And we get a funny little look from Greg like, I really shouldn't be here. And of course, we see Greg having briefly lost Steven and accidentally mistakes a little old Korean lady for him. And it turns out a bunch of little old Korean ladies happen to look similar to Steven. Before they finally take a bus out to the edge of where this was. And we see a fence, just like when Greg first met the Gems, that they erected to protect the site. And of course, they hop over. Greg's having a little bit tougher time as he's in his older age compared to when he was younger. And they proceed. Turns out they see a pelican, but it's in pristine condition. And more importantly, it's blue. When was the last time we saw a blue pelican? When Garnet was telling Steven on his birthday the story about how Ruby and Sapphire met. That's right, it's Blue Diamond's pelican. As it turns out, she has apparently had a habit, without anyone knowing about it, of visiting the Earth, specifically visiting the site of Pink Diamond's demise, and paying her respects. Apparently, for 5,000 years, she has been in a state of mourning. Now, I have understood grief. I've experienced grief in the past myself. And even with my own problems, something I don't really want to get done on because it's a little heavy subject for this, that is a lot of time. But we see Blue Pearl with her. Now, given the fact that all the Pearls are voiced by the same voice artist, she does an amazing job. I mean, you would not know it's the same person between Yellow Diamond, Blue Diamond, and, Yellow Pearl, Blue Pearl, and our Pearl. I mean, it's amazing the vocal range she has and how she gives such distinct characters to these individuals. Well, Greg and Steven make noise, and Greg goes out in order to greet them. Now, in such close proximity, Blue Diamond's tears start pouring out of Steven's eyes again. He greets Blue Diamond as Her Majesty. He shows her respect. And strangely enough, he gets along with her really well. As a matter of fact, this episode by itself has done more to humanize a diamond than the last time we saw a diamond, which was Yellow Diamond, when Peridot finally officially became a crystal gem. She doesn't have her star yet, but she became a crystal gem that day. Greg discusses with her, finds out that apparently Blue Diamond and Pink Diamond were especially close. And then she's been apparent so much so that for 5,000 consecutive years she has been mourning her loss, with her Pearl there by her side. Now, mind, I'm sure that's just the Pearl being what Pearls are supposed to be, but you don't spend that much time with someone without feeling genuine empathy and sympathy for them. So I'm sure there's a genuine sense of concern and remorse from Blue Pearl as well. Greg conveys that he understands what loss feels like. He doesn't go into specifics for his sake, thankfully, but Blue Diamond is surprised by the fact that she can relate to humans. And she even seems a little cheeky about the fact that she's not really supposed to be there. And how she feels that even though the Earth's going to be destroyed by the cluster, which they don't know that the cluster's been disabled, but she feels that not all humans that humans in general just don't deserve what's going to happen. Her issue isn't with the humans or even with the gems. That's all Yellow Diamond's thinking. So she goes out of her way to save Greg and take him up to the zoo. We see Steven use his floating powers to try and catch Blue Diamond's arm ship. Yes, an arm ship. which is impressive in its own way. It almost makes you wonder if all the Diamond's ships don't connect in some way to form this massive super weapon, which I theorize could have something to do with the special sound wave that distorted things and caused a lot of the corruption to happen 5,000 years ago. But I don't know for sure. I mean, that's just my theory. Honestly, because I'm a huge anime fan, especially of mecha anime, I just think it'd be awesome, this giant robot. But giant robot theories aside, um, yeah, Garnet shows up to catch Steven because apparently she had another future vision that showed him potentially falling, and her future vision's what told her about Blue Diamond, which is why she didn't want to go. She thought for sure Blue Diamond would recognize her, and she was concerned about what would happen to Ruby and Sapphire, or rather, Ruby and Sapphire were concerned about what happened to one another. Uh, kind of confusing thing, but uh, that brings us to episode 12, Adventures in Light Distortion, in which Garnet brings Steven back via warp pad, which means there was a warp pad nearby all along, and if Steven had known about it, he wouldn't have had to get Greg involved in any of it. So anyway, they bring him up to speed. Pearl's just like, our Greg? And she shows some genuine concern, but then Amethyst is like, what other Greg is there? Like, they have literally never met anyone else named Greg, so it's kind of funny. But, well, Amethyst hasn't. They might have, but it's still amusing. And then they try and figure out how they're going to rescue him from... They bring about, the idea of the zoo, how they're going to rescue him. And then they remember they have the Ruby ship, which they go to the barn in order to get it, because apparently Peridot's been keeping an eye on it. Not a bad idea. After all, she is familiar with modern gem technology. They're not, so... But it seems that the ships have different settings for the different gems that are going to be in them. I'm not going to get too far into that right now, but Peridot does mention changing the ruby's settings, which affect the color of the ship, and various other things in there, but Pearl and all of them were just so concerned about Greg, they don't stop and think about other things, just Peridot being concerned about aesthetics. And as they're leaving, Peridot and Lapis ask if they want them to go with them, but they charge them with staying behind to protect Beach City, which means one of the first episodes we get when we get back to the regular airing is probably going to involve around what happened while the other crystal gems were in space, leaving up to Connie, Peridot, and Lapis to protect Beach City without them. I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. But this is a milder episode compared to the rest in the Steven Mom. It does get really emotional. We do see that the rubies are still floating out in the asteroid belt between Earth and Mars. And we learn that in order to get to where the zoo is, it'll take about 70 plus years. Which means Greg would be dead by the time they got to him, more than likely. And we even hear a mention of Steven mentioning how Greg's health is not well enough for them to make it before he's passed. And then it comes back to something Peridot mentioned, which is a piece of technology in the Ruby ship, which basically warps space-time. Anyone who's a fan of sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, is probably familiar with this theory. Basically the wormhole theory, in which, if you travel through a wormhole, it can not only carry you through vast distances, but potentially through time. Now, science fiction has tampered with this a little bit, especially, again, Star Wars, Star Trek, where ships have the ability to create a localized wormhole, basically a rip in space-time, giving a direct link to far-reaching ends of the galaxy, universe, etc. And as they're trying to initialize this, their gem bodies get changed with the light. Their light forms get changed because the ship's settings are set for ruby size. So Garnet is bumped down to the size of ruby, as are pearl and amethyst. And then we see a lot of hilarity ensuing where they're changing between like peridot size, amethyst size, even diamond size. And eventually Steven finds the thing that sends them through space-time to get there faster. But it's so rapid that the gems' bodies are physically distorted out of their, and they're basically reverted to gems. Or at least it appears that way. And Steven feels like he's all alone. And he can hardly control the controls. And we see this real moment of clarity with Steven where we are reminded of the fact he is just a kid. You know, he's crying, he's wanting his dad, he's feeling completely lost and helpless. And when he finally manages to hit the stop button, we get the gems back, which it turns out their light bodies were just kind of like delayed behind them. And Amethyst gets this hilarious little line, like, I think I phased through a planet, which is like, you almost don't want to know what that must feel like. I mean, it's funny, but it's like, what the heck? But it's just really nice to see him humanized more, you know? I mean, we love seeing Steven succeed, but I personally enjoy seeing when Steven's at his weakest points. You know, so we can actually kind of see Steven as a kid. So we can relate to him. It's like, you know, those moments where we're reminded he is human. I mean, he's half human, but he is, you know, human. Anyway, the zoo is remarkable in its own right, and it turns out there is a, you know, red eye guarding it. You know, the first time we see a red eye was like by episode 2 of season 1, and when we first see it, it's this huge thing. You know, we think it. I mean, it's we see it kind of like a seeker kind of thing. But it's more than just that. It's like a protector as well. So, I mean, it doesn't cause any issues. It just kind of watches the ship. You know, I guess it's basically there just to keep foreign objects from potentially bringing harm to whatever it's stationed around. You know, when it's set in like guard mode. I don't know, but it definitely adds a level of intimidation to the whole mysterious beauty of the zoo itself. I mean, this huge reminder, like, yeah, we're in the stew. But then we get into episode 13, Gem Heist. You know, as they arrive, they're all freaking out because through the windows they're able to see all these amethyst guards. Everyone's like, you know, they're going to know it's us. But Garnet unfuses and suffers like we play the parts we were made to play. And we even see our amethyst shapeshift to look like the other amethysts as far as their size. It's just... It's interesting, you know, I don't want to give too much away about it, but we get to see a little bit more about hierarchy. We get introduced to new gems. Well, a new gem. We get to see more than we actually meet, but... right away you can kind of get the feeling that these amethysts are from Earth, just like our amethyst. Just because they have this kind of rambunctious, not quite so, you know, made-to-order personality like a lot of homeworld gems have. And then we meet... hold on. What was her name? Her gem cut looked a lot like a lapis, but it's not a lapis. It's... hold on, I can't... I'll think of it in a moment. I mean, I'm sorry for this, everybody. Again, I've been so preoccupied with work that my mental state with this is a little off-kilter. So my thoughts aren't as well formulated as I would have liked. give me just a second to find the name of this gem. She had a really interesting design. It had a very anime look to it, but it also reminded me a lot of Star Wars: The Clone Wars before Disney bought the franchise out, and the Clone Wars ended and became part of the Disney Corporation. She reminded me a lot of one of the senators, whose name unfortunately I can't remember. Um, I wish I could, because honestly, she was one of my favorite characters. The episode she actually got featured in Clone Wars. She had a very similar appearance. The blue skin, the way her hair was fixed, and those like twin orb kind of things, which again, very anime-like. You know, she's so memorable, but at the same time, I can't really remember her well enough to pinpoint who she is, and I hate that because again, she was one of the more memorable characters. Again, I'm sorry for the delay. I'm trying to get all this sorted ASAP because I just don't want to. I don't want to make this take too long. I want to give all the information I can for everyone. Again, her gem is located on the back of her head, and it kind of looks a lot like lapis lazuli's, but she's not a lazuli. She looks similar to like a quartz. But she has like this different persona to her. She looks so, I don't know. It's not really quite intimidating, but she reminds me a lot of like everyone can relate to this. Everyone's had that one teacher who seems almost like a drill sergeant. They're like so set at how they want things done, and so by the book that nothing you ever do will ever be right in their eyes. That's kind of how this person's character is like, which is funny because it's opposite of the Star Wars character I was trying to remember. I don't mean to delay like this. It's just killing me because I'm trying to remember this and I'm trying to find a source. It's like because I can't remember her name, it's not really making it any easier. Uh, what makes it really bad, though, is the fact that they mention her by name several times. And I do mean several times. Like, it's kind of ridiculous how many times they've mentioned it. It's like, and I'm still having trouble remembering it. Give me just a moment, please, everyone. I'm really sorry to ask y'all to hold on. It's just I've got to find the name of this character because it's gonna drive me nuts otherwise. Um, but in this series, it's given us a lot of insight. I'm gonna go back for a moment to telling a little bit about Steven's dream, more specifically Blue Diamond. And when we first were introduced to Blue Diamond, a season or so ago, during Steven's birthday arc, we get the impression that even Blue Diamond is like somewhat of a hard case. We get the impression she's closed-minded. But we kind of proven wrong because she definitely comes off a whole lot kinder, at least compared to Yellow Diamond, which does kind of beg the question, based on just on the silhouette designs and all. Given that Yellow Diamond and White Diamond's silhouettes, just from the murals, seem to be very dominant and very aggressive, while Pink Diamond and Blue Diamond seem more composed, that maybe that's just the nature of the diamonds. Like maybe for every one diamond there's a polar opposite. Which means, or it's quite possible that they represent different emotional states as well. It's really hard to say. But it's still too early to say. A lot of people such as Ostrut Box have theorized that maybe we'll see the potential of a diamond being rehabilitated. Not likely, but it plausible. And if it is plausible, then Blue Diamond's the most likely candidate, just based on her interactions with Greg and a lot of what we see about her character. Maybe unlike the other diamonds in 5,000 years, she's actually taken the time to reflect on the events of the war and try to understand what it was about. And I'll get more onto her momentarily. I think I found the character. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Her name, the character name, finally, is title. Her name is Holly Blue Agate. And again, everything about her, even her wardrobe design, seems very, very familiarized with this one Star Wars character, who, again, I wish I could remember. Because, again, one of my favorite characters in the series when Clone Wars was still around. Give me just a moment, please. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. I got Skype going, I got my research section going. I'm trying to do all this at once, so I do sincerely apologize. And I've got, as you probably heard briefly earlier before the little minor skip from a brief intermission, we've got family stuff going on too, so it's just all over the place. But yeah, Holly Blue Agate. She's got this really authoritative look to her. And yes, she does draw a lot from anime just as far as her overall design goes. Or at least she seems to. And it's clear that she's a homeworld gem. Like, compared to all the other gems we see in the zoo, she's definitely a homeworld gem. Just like the quintessential homeworld gem. Like, I'm not entirely sure what a Holly Blue Agate is, per se. Matter of fact, let's answer that question real quick. I don't know if any other reviewer, analyst, or anything has answered that. I mean, but let me see here. Holly Blue Agate, spelled A-G-A-T-E, for anybody curious. And yes, it is confirmed she is a homeworld gem, but just from like a gem, like a jeweler point of view, you know, from someone who's actually into earth sciences point of view, I'm somewhat in earth sciences, but let's just look at it from a scientific point of view, because each gem, the characteristics of the gem, has kind of been reflected in the gems we see in the show. And we definitely see this one as very authoritative. At the same time, she's somewhat optimistic. She almost seems to be somewhat of a blend between like Sapphire as far as a certain sense of elegance and rarity, and an Amethyst in the sense of being authoritative and kind of a hard case. Okay, here we go. Traditionally, a holly blue agate originates from Holly, Oregon, USA. It has a violet blue hue and is known as a stone of spirituality. It works to eliminate mental and emotional conditions, producing distortion in judgment, and which can otherwise produce distortion in judgment, and enhance mental acuity and clarity. Now we see that with Holly Blue in that she's not quite emotionless. She's like awestruck of the diamonds in the same way Peridot was, but she's got more of a Jasper type of sternness to her. Let's get going. It helps us refine communication skills and provides encouragement to verbalize our feelings. And she's not afraid to verbalize anything. Far from it. Apologize for that momentary break, but again, Holly Blue seems to really embody her actual gem. Now, Holly Blue was known as a calcidinous rock. More specifically, agate is a form of chalcedony and shares its properties. Chalcedony balances the energy of the body, mind, emotions, and spirit. It is a stone to encourage brotherhood among all, symbolizing benevolence and goodwill, stemming from the stone's nurturing energy. It is supposed to alleviate hostility, irritability, and melancholy, and enhance generosity, responsiveness, and receptivity. Chalcedony was used as a sacred stone by Native Americans to promote stability within the ceremonial activities of the tribe. Now, we do see a little bit of this in that she is trying to bring about unity, but at the same time, she is far from, a goodwill or nurturing soul. She's about as nurturing as a drill sergeant, which is not necessarily a bad thing as far as the overall, but we see a lot of manipulation of her by Sapphire, and we also see that she definitely has no time for, humans. Matter of fact, she seems to look down on humans in the way a lot of humans look down on animals. She basically has no time for it, and she even calls Steven trying to communicate as barking. But it turns out that the zoo actually only has like one or two real entrances and one real entrance and exit, as far as like being able to get in and out willingly. And it can only be accessed by the gems who've been trained to do so. We do see a lot of interesting things, including Pearl being a little fed up with being treated like a pearl, which is more or less a servant. A butler, maid, a generalized person who just walks around for nobility and does menial tasks like opening doors and such for him. And Pearl clearly has not missed this aspect. But eventually we see Steven get put through the process of entering into the zoo. And I'm not going to spoil that one. Let's just say you're better off seeing it than me trying to explain it. It's humorous in its own way, and at the same time, it's like a major violation of personal space. We see him arrive, and apparently he arrives through a submergence in the water. Like whatever tube he drops down actually curls up and jets him up through water in the zoo. And as many people, Ostrich Box especially, has pointed out, the zoo is remarkably similar to Mask Island. And there's a lot of theories about that, one of which we might get around to shortly. But it's definitely interesting to see the similarities. Perhaps it was a beta. Or maybe it was the original method by which Pink Diamond, transferred her troops and her prizes between Earth and her ships. Who knows? It's interesting. But moving on. Hold on. apologies, everyone. As I said earlier, we got family things going on as well. And that was my grandfather that you saw step in here. Anyway, moving on to the actual episode 14 of season 4, titled The Zoo. Now, this is interesting. We see when Steven arrives, he's looking around, and he instantly spots Greg. And now Steven and Greg have been put into basically tunics. For those who don't know, a tunic is just a simple type of garment. Basically a vest with a bit of a small shirt underneath, and a loincloth, more or less. As well as what appear to be earrings, which I'm assuming are tracking tags, or as we actually see, a form of communication between the zoo's AI and the residents. But apparently there are other humans, roughly a dozen or so. And they're all descendants of the original humans that Pink Diamond had on the ship. Or rather, in the zoo 5,000 years ago. Now, there's a lot I could get into with that, such as potential defects. But it's clear right away that the zoo, while very paradise-like, has not been very beneficial to them as far as their growth. I mean, sure, they're healthy looking, they're not reasonably intelligent. They're not like, average person intelligent, but they're like, they're smart enough to be aware of things. But there's a lot they've lacked experience in. Steven is really eager to get out, and Greg, while not really eager, he's not really, he's kind of in the middle, it's like, he's found like this hippie love paradise. I mean, thank God Andy wasn't with him for this, because Andy'd probably be going out of his mind, but, Greg seems to be like the life of the party, like, he's in his 40s, and he's still holding all these young people's attention as if he was still the rock star he tried to be back in the day. That's impressive for the old guy, He's still got some swag to him. We see that a lot of their lives is dictated for them, not unlike how the Gems' lives were. But dictated in the sense of like a zoo animal would be dictated, herded to areas for rest, mealtime, whatever. But they seem perfectly happy with it. But their lives revolve around just kind of being in the moment, like at peace. And then we get to this point where they're called together for a pairing ceremony, which is pretty much exactly what you'd like to think. And Greg's number gets called up, and he's not particularly happy. I mean, he's flattered, but he's not particularly happy. That's because, despite the fact that I'm sure he has thought about moving on, he loved Rose enough that he has chose to basically stay single. And that hits home for me, for reasons I don't want to get into. But I understand it, and that really speaks volumes about how much he cared for Rose. But unfortunately, the other humans don't understand. Like, this is literally the first time they've ever experienced pain. They go nuts. I mean, at first he explains that on Earth, people are allowed to choose who they want to spend the rest of their lives with and who they want to love. And everybody's like, well, we all want to be with Greg. And it's like, no, I don't want to be with any of you. And then they all kind of go nuts. This is interesting because originally the only way to really get Gems to open the door so they could escape was to need medical attention or something. And apparently this qualified. Like, enough that a whole bunch of amethysts run in to try and calm people down. And I mean genuinely calm down, not like a zookeeper was, like, but almost like a therapist would, Like a guy, like a counselor would, sitting down with them, talking to them, trying to comfort them. I mean, was a clear sign to me that these were Earth amethysts, even before it was officially confirmed in the very next episode. Because we see, as they're trying to leave, a couple of amethysts grab them, and then actually carry them out. Which, again, brings us to episode 15. That will do. Or that will... Is that will do? That will be all. Simile. But anyways, the amethyst carries them to basically what it's the amethyst bunk area, and our amethyst has apparently been found out, but it's all a big show. Apparently, she and all of them were all, and most of the other amethysts were from the prime kindergarten, and they're basically siblings. She even calls them her sisters. You know, this is a big deal for Amethyst. She's never met another Amethyst before, let alone another gem who's like her, as far as personality and things go. What's interesting is we see a lot of gems from the Beta Kindergarten too. Other Jaspers, Carnelians. Well, the only real Carnelian we see is actually just a slight bit bigger than Amethyst. And it's a blood red gem. So, but we do see other Jaspers. As a matter of fact, one Jasper in particular is very skinny, very petite. I mean, she's still tall, but she's slender. And she's got somewhat of a laid-back personality. Well, apparently, the Jasper we all know and loathe really was, the odd gem out. But it's great because we see a lot of Earth gems really do seem to take on this quality to them. Which almost makes you wonder if Rose was made on Earth. Because she didn't seem to fit the cut of a homeworld gem when you really stop and think back to a lot of things. Unless she was just generally defective. But we'll see a little bit of bonding, a little bit of catching up. It's just great to see all these homeworld gems. But then Holly Blue Agate shows up. And it turns out that not only did Blue Diamond show up, but so did some other, and so did another. Anyway, Steven and Greg sneak out while the Amethysts are following Agate, and then they find this, and they sneak into this room in order to avoid being seen, and this room just happens to be where Blue Diamond is, along with Blue Pearl. And what's interesting is we see tons of bubble gems, and they are all rose quartz gems, which blows out of the water the theory that rose quartz was one of a kind. This is just phenomenal, because a lot of people theorize that the rose quartz we know was one of a kind because the others had been shattered. No, apparently the other diamonds wanted to shatter them, but Blue Diamond, having cared for Pink Diamond so much, bubbled them all and took them into what was Pink Diamond's quarters as a sanctuary. Yellow Diamond shows up, trying to convince Blue to let go of her feelings, even with a very well choreographed and sung song, What's the Use in Feeling? And it's got a lot of meanings to it, and it really is kind of heartbreaking, because we do see that Yellow Diamond is suffering too, but rather than allowing her emotions to show through, she's basically cut herself off. And then we get Sapphire, Ruby show up, and there's some other dialogue. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it was a really interestingly done episode. The whole Steven mom has been interesting. Eventually, the gems make their break for it with Greg, and then Holly shows up, and she reaches behind her head and starts to pull out her weapon, which almost looks like a whip, meaning that whips are probably common to a lot of amethyst-style gems. Or rather, quartz-style gems. Which means agates are probably similar to regular amethysts in some respects. Of course, we never actually see... Yeah, we do see it. Her whip is, like, electric. Like, Amethyst whip kind of can create this fire effect, and while Holly's creates, like, this electrical effect. So it's interesting. Maybe it's all elemental. I don't know. We do know that a lot of Jasper's weapons seem to be like armor based on the Jasper we know, while Rose Quartz weapons seem to be more defensive, so it's kind of interesting. And we do notice that a lot of Ruby weapons seem to be up close quarters kind of things, eyeballs is a combat knife, while our Ruby's happens to be a boxing glove. And based on how Garnet's weapons look, we can assume that Sapphire's is a gauntlet. So it's just really interesting to see how a lot of this stuff works. But then as Holly's about to sound the alarm, Pearl steps up. And I mean steps up in her face. Like, really makes Holly bow down to the level that she was trying to get the others to bow down to. It was like, you want to be the one to tell the Diamonds that you not only lost two of Blue Diamond's human pets from the zoo, but that they were taken by renegade gems. That won't look so good, will it? And she just kind of like awestruck. All the Amphis are like cheering. Apparently, they've wanted this for a long time. I was a little disappointed that none of them left with them. It would have been nice if maybe the new Jasper had left with them, or maybe Carnelian, just a few of them, just to kind of amp their forces and get back home. But, overall, I really enjoyed this set of Stephen Baum episodes, I'm really excited to see what new ones come to follow. I'm not sure what to expect. Again, there aren't really any bad moments, there are no such thing as, filler episodes in Steven Universe. Adventures in Light Distortion was one of the slower paced ones. It was emotionally heavy, but not particularly spectacular overall, at least not to me. And the Zoo was more slice of life, kind of slow, not really heavy action oriented, but really helped develop the lore. All in all, if I had a rating system, I might eventually get one. I would probably give this one a serious 8 out of 10. Maybe 8.5. There's just a few minor things that I didn't really care for. I'm not going to really point them out because I'd have to rewatch them all again. It's been too long. I've not really had the time. But honestly, the Stephen bombs just seem to get better. It's a little bit of a shame that this got leaked early. I'm not sure what Cartoon Network was thinking when they did this. I don't really know what to expect. But it's definitely got me amped up for the future episodes, especially since we may be getting some views on what the war is going to be like, how Pink Diamond got shattered. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that we are probably going to get to see this season. It makes you wonder if this is going to be the last one or not. I hope not. I hope we get at least one more after this. I mean, because we've seen a lot of great shows come to an end recently. Adventure Time's nearing its last season. The Amazing World of Gumball is coming close to its last season. Regular shows been canceled already. There's just a lot of stuff that began this revitalization of animation that has just kind of dwindled out. And I really hope Steven Universe is going to be part of that. I mean, we know we're entering Season 7 on My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic soon, along with the Friendship is Magic movie later this summer, early fall. And instead of an Equestria Girls movie, we're getting a series of Equestria Girls minisodes. So I'm pumped for a lot of it, and if any of it does come to an end, hopefully it'll go off on a high note. It's hard to say if the Friendship is Magic movie is going to spark the end of MLP's current generation, or if it's going to just be the beginning of the things they have in store. I mean, a feature-length film, it's hard to say. But again, Steven Universe just seems to be getting better. Rebecca Sugar and her team in the Crewniverse just really blow it all out of the water. And I'm definitely interested to see how things go with Connie, Peridot, and Lapis when they get around to showing some more episodes. And again, thank you all for tuning in. I do once more apologize for how long it's been, and especially for the length of the video. I wanted to keep things short and sweet with this lightning round, but I just couldn't do it apparently. But you can understand why. I'm having to make up for lost time. And yes, I do have another lightning round video I want to get done. Probably won't get done today. Might get it done next weekend if I'm lucky. I'm not really sure yet. And that'll be for Dragon Ball Super. Because I'm several episodes behind now, let's be honest. I mean, I have watched them all and I have started formulating my thoughts on them, but I have just been really, really slow on time. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I got to do over the weekends, on my days off now, that really cuts in some of my personal time. I'm sure you all can understand. Hopefully you do. But I will try and get new content made as I'm able. And that's the best promise I can make right now. But again, thanks for tuning in. If you liked any of my thoughts, feel free to say so down below. If you have any theories of your own or anything you want to add to my reviews, please leave that in the comments section. Feel free to click the like button or click the dislike button, either or, depending on if you liked or didn't like this video. And if you want to see more and are looking forward to more from me, hit that share button. Or if you're not sure subscribe button. If you're not sure you want to subscribe yet, feel free to click my name above the video description and check out what other content I have to offer, including previous Steven Universe content, Dragon Ball Super, My Little Pony, Equestria Girls, etc. And if you have anything that you want to ask me to cover, or a video topic you want me to do, or anything, just feel free to leave that in the comments section. Or stay tuned till the end credits and see other ways in which you can get a hold of me and other media other ways to see media that I've created beyond just YouTube. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll be able to get back on more of a balanced schedule with releasing content as I get my work schedule sorted and get accustomed to it all. I will certainly make an effort to. Anyways, this has been Moonshadow Mystery the Changeling, saying don't go changing for anyone but yourselves. And I sincerely hope to see you all next time here on the Moonshadow Mystery channel. Take care, everyone. Have a pleasant week. Stephen Quartz DeMayo Universe and other affiliated characters, elements, and music are the creative, copywritten, and licensed properties and creations of Rebecca Sugar, Cartoon Network, and the Crewniverse. Please support the official releases of Steven Universe on Cartoon Network and other licensed representatives. Moonshadow Mystery the Changeling, also known as Compound Eyes and Moonlight Shadow, is the original character, and by extension, creative and intellectual property of its creator, Darren Self, better known as Moonshadow Mystery the Changeling. If you'd like to contribute to this channel, wish to submit fan art, make more extensive suggestions for critique, or would like to view other creative content associated with this channel or its creator, then you may do so by using the links available in the video description, which are as follows: Skype, Moonshadow Mystery, Darren Self, Gmail, selfdarren1@gmail.com, DeviantArt, http://greatdragonseru.deviantart.com, Facebook, www.facebook.com/darren.self.12, Twitter @Moonshadow_Myst, spelled MYST, SecondLife @Moonshadow Mystery, otherwise known as darkryu.burner. Patreon is currently unavailable and is pending payment method verification.